can you avoid turning off the tenants that you hope to attract to your rental property? As a landlord, you feel like you've done all the things. You got your listings published on 20 plus websites, you're sharing it with friends and family, social media, you're getting some interest, you're getting some scheduled showings. But in terms of qualified applicants, people putting in applications, you're getting crickets. So in today's video, I'm going to share some of the top mistakes I've seen landlords make when it comes to preparing the home for putting it on the market for the public to see to attract quality tenants. I'm going to be sharing another conversation with my leasing manager, Samira, about the things that we've seen that really have slowed down the pace of finding quality tenants for the properties that we manage. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome to the Real Estate Wisdom channel. We do have some information or free resources available in the description area, all types of downloads. You can connect with me offline. You can answer your personal questions. But with this channel, my objective really is to put out tips about how to maintain and grow a profitable rental property portfolio. And from time to time, I'm giving market updates from someone who's boots on the ground in the Philadelphia and Delaware County markets. So with that, let's jump right into the discussion. Five conditions that hurt landlords when they're trying to rent out space. So these are conditions that when tenants or applicants are viewing the home actually are negative, and it kind of leads to having a lot of showings but not a lot of applications because the tenants just view the property as unlivable. And a lot of these things are really controllable. So that's why we're passionate about advising landlords or future landlords to kind of just put these things in the budget as you're making your properties ready to get back on the market for rent.
Yeah, so I guess just to kick us off in no particular order again, one of the top conditions that could hurt you is cleanliness. And I really want to highlight that too, because you have to remember when people are coming to see your home, that's like their first impression. And if the home, isn't clean, it kind of gives not only a bad look on the home itself, but then as a landlord, it almost looks as if you don't care. And nowadays, tenants will like to, like the landlord cares. They like to know who they're partnering with. And in our marketing pictures, we do a great job of hiding certain items, staging them, dressing them up, and, having people come out to the home. But as Veronica mentioned, they'll come out to the home, and when they get there, it looks different from the photos. And now they're not super interested to want to submit an application or eager to submit an application. It kind of puts a bad taste in their mouth.
Mm-hmm. And when you're mentioning about the photos, I know some mom and pop landlords may take pictures, use pictures from like 5 years ago and put those online, and maybe in the small print this is what the property looked like before the current tenants moved in. But if they're dramatically different and the property was really kind of beat up by the current tenants, they're gonna not expect or be worried about, are you going to put the property back to closer to what the picture, your 5 year ago pictures look like? Or is it kind of basically is what it is of what we see when we walked into the property? So, and we really, think that landlords just have to make it part of their process. So obviously the tenants, you ask them to kind of remove all their belongings and do some sort of cleaning to get those security deposits back. But we have found in practice that generally is not enough to make it marketing ready. It's maybe ready enough to get your security deposit back, but there's another level. And quite frankly, it's a professional clean, in our opinion, to get things ready for photos.
Agree, especially if you have carpet. You definitely want to incorporate the extra clean when they move out, because although the tenants, did their level of cleaning and, it looks like a decent job, when it comes to the carpet, it can hold the scent, and we don't want that scent also sitting in the house. So it's always safe just to do an extra clean once the tenants have moved out before you're ready for marketing.
Great. And then another item to mention is older appliances. And you may think, well, the stove works, but I guess it's kind of related to cleaning slash just kind of age of the appliance. A lot of times, older appliances, no matter how hard you scrub, with the professionals, sometimes it just doesn't necessarily come out the same. Now, I'm not saying that you buy a new appliance because the stove is dirty. You would, if you need to spend an extra $100 or something to make sure that the stove is clean, you do that as part of your cleaning. But maybe, Samira, you probably had a comment recently about the stove. Maybe you can share a better example.
Yeah, so one thing to keep in mind too, when we're marketing our properties and tenants are looking, the biggest selling points, not saying the whole home don't sell, the biggest selling points, people look at the kitchen and they look at your bathroom. And with the appliances in the kitchen, for example, the stove, it just is old and worn and probably doesn't work the way it should. I guess, as Veronica was mentioning, like one of my most recent comments was really about, for example, the stove still worked. However, like the burner, I guess on that particular stove, like kind of was like not on track and really didn't look like it was going to hold up much, much longer. And believe it or not, that was a feedback that we did get from one of the applicants that came and viewed the home. And with that, feedback, we did take it to our client, who then since then replaced the stove. But that's definitely something that they're looking at as they're walking through the house. And again, the bathroom and kitchen are those selling points. So like a nice refrigerator, sorry, a nice stove, microwave if you have one, hood range. Like these are different things that they're looking at to, see, if this is where they want to cook. Obviously, preparing your food, people very, I don't want to say finicky, but very particular about the appliances they use to prepare their food, store their food. And we just again want to give them that best first impression as they walk through.
And I mean, quite frankly, sometimes landlords don't keep up to date on whether the stove is fully functional. So, or tenants maybe on their move out, maybe they've been using 2 of 4 burners for the last year, but they don't say anything. They're fine with it. But once a new tenant comes around and looks at that stove, it now is inadequate, so that you need to either repair it, or sometimes with the more computer or technical wiring with appliances now, depending on the part, maybe the part is going to be so expensive that it makes sense just to replace the whole item. So that's what we're finding now, that and like they say, they don't make appliances like they used to, or I guess like our parents would tell us that, maybe years before, if like, as a homeowner, you keep your appliances for 10 years. The rational, I guess our experiences, things don't stay in 10 years for a rental property between, 3 tenants. They're just harder on the appliances.
Agreed.
Just with that, speaking of wearing down, let's talk about flooring. You have anything to say about worn flooring?
Yes. And I laughed at this because we I don't say struggled, but it was definitely a harder rental for us to get off the market because of worn flooring. Um, Flooring is definitely very important, especially when people are considering bringing in their kids. It's like they take the floor, obviously the look of the floor, the way it feels and everything very seriously. But it's definitely harder in regards to not so much the marketing, but then once they come and getting it off the property. Floors is almost like a paint job. Like good floors and a fresh paint job makes the home look so much cleaner, gives it a very airy feeling, and then really does durability long term.
Yeah, no, that's stuff. And flooring is something that Generally, you don't have to replace every year. So again, if you, like I was saying with the pets, if you make your floor choice as durable for pets and also durable for humans, and thinking about how they live and sliding furniture around. So sometimes it makes sense to spend a few cents more per square foot on flooring that's going to last you a longer time.
And not even so much just lasting a longer time too, but it's also really good when it comes to those getting professional cleaned after a tenant moves out. Like there's different types of carpet. Like some carpet obviously is easier to clean than others. Like these are things you also want to think about as you're looking at your different floorings. Even when it comes to laminated flooring or towels, which one is easier to clean when a tenant moves out so that they look as close to brand new as possible before the next tenant moves in.
Mm-hmm. And then also, I guess another thought of it goes to quality of the contractor doing installing it, because sometimes there's contractor issues. To be quite frank, somebody who's, and a lot of times of mom and pop landlords, you may say, "Hey, I can just put the floor in myself. I'm kind of handy," but then you find that if there's contractor error in installing, it shortens the life of the flooring, and there you go, potentially having to replace good flooring prematurely just because it wasn't installed correctly. Speaking, I guess we're going to stay with worn theme. Uh, Doors. So doors is an issue. Go and you may have a fresh story about worn doors.
Yeah, so with the doors, whether it's, the front door, because obviously people look at that for safety. So if you can replace your screen, make sure there's no light coming through the front door, that's a plus when showing a marketing a property. But also even bedroom and closet doors. Even recently we had to, um suggest our client, provide new closet doors because obviously the ones that were there, the last tenant was hard on. So they was a little worn and not super sturdy. And it's best for us to catch it now before someone moves in and we're trying to fix their doors for them. But definitely want to look into like sturdy doors when it comes to the bedroom, closet, and front door.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's different issues with and that's a good point to bring up that tenants are looking at the interior doors, like they're literally opening and closing because you may think like, oh, they don't touch anything. Like, no, they have their hands on everything. And then maybe it's a house that you lived in and you're used to kind of gently opening the closet door because you know it's kind of tricky. The tenants aren't going to do that. They want to just be able to yank it open and do it, use it how they want to. So is somewhat a material choice is important. Is it a home or a closet that maybe a child or maybe have a lot of activities, common, a door that you would open and close frequently, then you would want to think about like, is this material going to be durable? Is it kind of foolproof, so to speak? But the front door, the exterior doors, sometimes this is a security issue. People wonder. I had a landlord friend in another state. She didn't know that you're always supposed to change the locks, on the doors, which is another issue. But tenants kind of think about like, does somebody have this key? Will it be easy to break in this property? And so people just want to feel like their belongings and themselves are protected when they live in the property. So making sure that the door seems secure. And then when you mentioned the daylight underneath is really usually an energy efficiency thing, because with these heating bills, if most of our units are gas fueled heating systems, and so if you're letting all that air out, then that puts pressure on their heating bills. So sometimes that is another a reason that worn doors, as you can see, has a lot of things that comes to a tenant mind around, problems that a worn door could cause.
Yeah. And then one door, I mean, I know it's not like huge, but it's definitely something like to bring up because Veronica mentioned, when tenants walk through, they're opening doors. They're also opening cabinet doors too. So as you do your flip, go through, double check those screws, make sure the cabinet doors are opening like they should, close them, with ease. You don't have to like do something funky to open it or anything like that. But just another door I just like to put on your radar as you flip your homes and prepare for the next tenant.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then one last thing that we didn't cover um, is a fresh coat of paint. So can you talk to what a fresh coat of paint does for a unit?
Yeah, I mean, a fresh coat of paint can go a long way. Again, I know we talked a lot about, cleaning a home and getting it ready, but a fresh paint can make the house look that much more cleaner. Just want to give an example where, a property was listed. The home was clean. We got someone to come through and fresh and clean the home. However, I believe there were some areas where not all the walls were freshly painted, and the tenants were able to pick up on that. They were like, "Oh, like this room's clean, but this one isn't." And it's something about a fresh coat of paint that just gives the home a newness. It just feels like, oh, like this new walls. It's been very clean. It's very tidy. It just kind of goes along with like, the clean floors and it not looking so worn and looking a little bit more newer. Same thing with a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, and I guess I'll add fresh coat of neutral paint, ideally. So I know there's sometimes if you think, oh, if I invested this money to paint, 2 years ago, and it's baby blue, you know, um, everybody may not have the same appreciation for the baby blue, even though if it was a professional paint job. So we find that the best blank palette is kind of the neutral beiges, grays, and whites. That's kind of what we stick to. Of course, the tenant may still want to paint with their own flavor, but what looks best in the photos, online is definitely a neutral color palette.
Yeah, and then also just to kind of piggyback off of that, when it comes to those neutral colors, if a repair has to get done and you have to go into the wall for whatever reason and then patch it back up and go to paint, it's also easier to match those colors up again. So getting a very light, say beige, a very light beige is very easier to match versus a midnight blue from Bear or something. Like it gets very complicated when it comes to doing those repairs in the home because we know with tenants, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I guess a bonus tip, and maybe a subject of another video, when you're scaling in terms of having multiple homes, what we do is, as a property manager that manages a number of homes, is we kind of keep a consistent paint palette. So we know exactly, we're not guessing and trying to match up a color. We know that we work with basically 3 or 4 colors in all of our properties. And so we can tell our contractors the exact paint color, and we kind of keep a history of it so that we're not guessing. So that's kind of advances, more experienced or seasoned landlords kind of keep to the same color palette that they repeat time and time again. Okay. Anything else you could think of that we didn't cover in terms of mistakes? I know we kind of quickly rattled off these from our recent conversations with a bunch of listings, but just wanted to give you a chance if you think of anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to the first point I brought up earlier, and it's about like the cleanliness of the home. I also want to highlight that doesn't mean just the inside, it also means the outside. So
Mm.
you have lawn, making sure that the lawn is getting taken care of. You have shrubbery or bushes, making sure they're getting cut. Unfortunately, if you're in an area where like trash may blow down the street or somehow there is trash on your property, you happen to walk past it, like do your best to get it cleaned or keep an eye on it. Again, it's the first impression is when they come view the home. If they're walking up to a home that the outside doesn't look manicured or neat, and then there's trash everywhere, it's not the best look or impression that you want to give to a tenant.
Very good point. So curb appeal is not just for people who are buying the home, they're also for tenants. Very good point. Before I wrap up, I do want to speak to that investor that is comfortable or willing to invest in the rental unit. In fact, you may feel like you just did a full rehab from where the property was. You may have invested in stainless steel appliances and the whole nine. What I can say is the small stuff still matters because you only have one chance to make a first impression. So although you may hope that the tenants kind of see the big picture of how you invested in the property, they're not going to look behind like the small details, like a professional clean. Something is what people really believe is basic now, and how you present your property to the world. Now, if you want more insight on the top amenities to include in that rehab budget, you'll want to check out the video that's appearing on the screen now. And thanks for watching another Real Estate Wisdom video. And as always, happy investing.